Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Mariancho, and it's Saturday, week 14. Time for the injury report. We're going to go through every single team, every position, tell you who is in and out. If they're not mentioned, then they are healthy or they've been out for a long time. There are a few players I'm not going to mention, like Joe Alt, for example, who's been on IR since November. But let's get it going. After that, we'll talk about weather updates, and I will give you my final win-loss picks and picks against the spread. I think I'm going to change one of those selections. At running back, that's where we begin today. In Arizona, Trey Benson remains on IR. Did not practice at all this week, and that's moving in the wrong direction. If he does not get activated next week, then he won't be able to play at all. So at this point, I wouldn't bet on it. I was hopeful, but everything is pointing to him not coming back this year. So Emari DeMercado, the backup, is also out with an ankle injury. It looks like Bam Knight's going to have this job, not just this week, but every week moving forward. So if you're holding on to him or somehow he's still available, that is a solid depth piece. The Cardinals backfield, though, a little tough to trust every week. In Cleveland, Dylan Sampson, the backup running back, is questionable with a calf injury. Did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, but was limited on Friday. He's a game time decision. Don't know if he'll be active. I would be more pessimistic on Dylan Sampson. That would bode well for Quinshon Judkins. I would expect even more volume out of Judkins. In LA, some positive news for the Chargers backfield. Omarion Hampton was full in practice on Friday with his ankle injury. So the game is on Monday. They still did not pull him off IR. However, given the timetable, everything that I've read indicates it's likely that he will be active on Monday night. So look for that activation off of IR tomorrow, and then probably in the pregame warm-up, we'll get the full clearance that Hampton is good to go. But the fact he was full on Friday is kind of all I need to know. I have him in the subscriber league. I do not have Kimani Vidal, and I am keeping Hampton in the starting lineup. I'm not going to panic. I don't have a backup plan. However, I can't get a playoff bye. I've also clinched a playoff spot, so maybe I'm more willing to take that risk than you are. Let me know in the comments what your situation is if you're reluctant to bet on Hampton. But I would just trust him. I think he'll play. I'm not worried about him missing. In New Orleans, Alvin Kamara will miss again. He did not practice at all, and I don't think he'll be back this year. I doubt it'll happen, but maybe given his age, if he's eligible, he will come back. But not this week. Devin Neal gets a very positive matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then this player's on bye. However, it's pretty relevant. Tyrone Tracy is expected to be fine coming off of the bye week. So he was carted off the field, and it looked like Devin Singletary might be a great pickup. And if you did grab Devin Singletary, it may not work out. It looks like Tracy will be back in week 15. So good for him, bad for Singletary owners. And that would be it at running back. So let's move on to receiver, where in Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be out with a heel injury, not going to play. And maybe he's back next week, but that's not a guarantee either. But his backup receiver, Greg Dortch, is also out with a chest injury, and that just means even more targets for guys like Trey McBride and especially Michael Wilson. I think Michael Wilson is a lock in the lineup. On top of that, Zay Jones has been on IR for a few weeks now. And then the fourth string receiver, Xavier Weaver, is questionable for this game, was full on Wednesday, limited Thursday, and then on Friday did not practice at all. He's dealing with a hamstring injury, and that leaves pretty much no one other than Michael Wilson on that depth chart. So a lot of targets, pretty consolidated. I think Bam Knight might also be catching maybe 5+ receptions. But perhaps the Rams defense is just a better play. Maybe their offense just shits the bed. In Atlanta, Drake London is out yet again. That's a bummer. I was hopeful he'd come back. I'm really counting on him in the playoffs. I sure hope London is back by next week. But Joshua Palmer is doubtful for this game, and Keon Coleman probably stays on the field. In Chicago, this one was a bit of a surprise. Rome Odunze has been ruled out, so that upgrades guys like Luther Burden and Olamide Zaccheaus. I think DJ Moore is a pretty legit, pretty safe flex play against the Packers this week, but that may not bode well for their offense. They're going to have to lean on the run a little extra. In Green Bay, their opponent, Jaden Reed is coming off IR. He is now deemed questionable, and he's moving in the right direction. I am expecting Jaden Reed to be active, but it also looks like Matthew Golden might return to the field with his wrist injury. He was limited all week in practice, so that does not help the fantasy outlook for any player. I think the wide receiver one job is up for grabs, and if I was going to put a bet on it, by the end of the year, it will be Jaden Reed, but this week it is still Christian Watson. So hard to really trust a specific Packers receiver. I'm only going to start Watson. However, I do think Jordan Love is going to have a very high ceiling down the stretch here. This definitely helps Jordan Love in fantasy. Parker Washington in Jacksonville is questionable with a hip injury. He was carted off the field last week, but while he didn't practice Wednesday, he was back on Thursday, limited as well on Friday. So I think he will be active, but it looks like Jacoby Myers is pretty much solidified in that pecking order above him, and I don't know how many targets he's going to get. Brenton Strange also coming alive. In LA, Tutu Atwell started to practice but remains on IR. So the tight end Colby Parkinson still remains the third target in that offense. And then in Las Vegas, rookie wide receiver Dante Thornton is out. Irrelevant in fantasy except for my best ball shares. Sadly, it's not working out with Dante Thornton. Chris Olave in New Orleans is questionable with a back injury, and he didn't practice Wednesday, but then on Thursday and Friday, he was limited. I assume he will be active, but perhaps he's not 100%. He hasn't played very well in his career against the Bucs. This could open the door for guys like Juwan Johnson, and then most notably, Devon Vele. I think Vele actually might be a solid stash and play down the stretch in fantasy playoffs. I think Vele might be getting extra looks. If the back injury persists, Vele could be a great pickup. In New York for the Jets, Garrett Wilson is still on IR. That was expected. Same with Torrey Horton in Seattle. He's also still on IR. And then in Tampa Bay, we saw Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan return to the practice field this week. They were limited. However, both of them are staying on IR. They have 3 weeks to practice before they can return, and that would indicate they'll be back before the end of the year, but not in week 14. So Egbuka, I'm still going to trust despite his dip in production lately, and I also think Chris Godwin offers some high-end upside this week against the Saints. Last player to mention at receiver is Noah Brown of the Commanders, who is questionable, and that is an upgrade coming off IR. He's been out for a while. It's like since week 2, Noah Brown has been inactive. So we have seen Treylon Burks start to step up, but that wide receiver 3 in Washington is still up for grabs. So that's it at receiver. Let's move on to quarterback now, where the most important name to mention is Justin Herbert, especially playing on Monday. If he's your guy like he is on my fantasy team, my backup is Drake May, who's on bye. I need to know if Herbert will play, and I'm expecting him to be active. He was limited all week in practice, and the injury was to his left hand. While he did have surgery, the only impact is that he can't take the snap under center. He will be in shotgun, and that's not ideal, but I think he'll be on the field. He barely missed any time last week when it got hurt. He played through it, and he was fine. So I wouldn't be worried about it, but maybe there's less play action called in this matchup. If he's not under center, that does limit some of the play calling. Justin Fields, the backup in New York, is out with a knee injury, so Tyrod Taylor, a lock to stay the starter. In Washington, we got this news earlier in the week. Jaden Daniels will play, and in this same game, we also get J.J. McCarthy back on the field. So I mentioned this back on Monday. I picked the Commanders to win regardless of quarterback, and knowing Jaden Daniels is active, I'm definitely feeling more confident in that pick. But that matchup is not easy. The Vikings defense is playing well, but the Commanders defense is playing horse shit. I actually think McCarthy has some upside this week in fantasy. Last player to mention who I don't expect back anytime soon, but it is in Cleveland, the quarterback Deshaun Watson has started to practice, remains out, but who knows? He might be back on the field before the end of the year. They still don't have a franchise quarterback, but I wouldn't bet on him. There's no way I'm picking up Watson in fantasy. At tight end, last position to mention, only 2 players really relevant on the injury report. Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo is a major question mark this week, but I think he's going to play. I think he will return to the field. He was limited all week in practice, and although that's been the case for multiple weeks now, I think he will suit up. It's a great matchup against the Bengals. It's maybe not a must-win game. I still think they make the playoffs easily, even if they lose. However, this matchup is great. So if he is active, I think you have to start him. You want a tight end against the Bengals, and I'm not going to bet on Knox or Jack Hawes if Kincaid is active. So a game time decision, but if you ask me, I assume he will play, and if he does, I would start him. Michael Mayer is out, the backup in Las Vegas, not going to suit up. So that's it in terms of fantasy relevant players. But if you really think about it, at this stage of the year, once we hit December, pretty much everyone is banged up. Unless you're DJ Giddens, the backup to Jonathan Taylor, you are probably pretty banged up at this stage of the game. So that is something to keep an eye out on. Although I didn't mention that many players, most guys are banged up. So now let's move on to defense and O-line. There are some relevant players missing this week that will impact some of those matchups. So let's begin in Arizona, where backup right tackle Kelvin Beachum is questionable, and then they've officially placed right guard Will Hernandez on IR. So he's been battling injuries for a while. He will be out for the rest of the season. Their left guard, Evan Brown, is also questionable. So overall, the Cardinals' offensive line is really depleted. I could see a lot of sacks this week from the Rams. Defensive tackle Walter Nolan is also out, so I would expect Kyron Williams and Blake Corum to play even better. And then cornerback Max Melton is out. Adams and Puka should dominate. Let's move on to the Falcons, where in Atlanta, defensive tackle Brandon Dorlus is out. Safety DeMarco Helms is also out. And then defensive tackle David Onyemata is questionable. Their linebacker James Pierce Jr., the rookie, is questionable as well. In Buffalo, it took a while for him to crop up on the injury report, but I've been waiting for this. Joey Bosa is out, the defensive end. Lasted a bit longer than I would have assumed, but linebacker Terrell Bernard is not going to play either. And then their secondary is also missing new acquisition, Darius Slay. He was released by the Steelers, I guess, signed by the Bills. He is out in this game. Right tackle Spencer Brown on the offensive line is questionable, so it does look like they get back. Left tackle Dion Dawkins is active. He missed last week, but he's going to play against Cincinnati. In Chicago, linebacker Ruben Hippolyte is out, along with cornerback Tyreek Stevenson. He is out as well. In Cleveland, right tackle Jack Conklin is out, along with right guard Wyatt Teller. So the entire right side of the offensive line is missing. The Titans have actually been a tough matchup. I am a bit worried about Quinshon Judkins this week. If you don't get a touchdown, I could see Judkins really burn you. On defense for Cleveland, defensive tackle Mason Graham, their first round pick last year, is questionable. And linebacker Devin Bush, also questionable. In Denver, on defense, nose tackle DJ Jones is out. Otherwise, they're pretty healthy. In Green Bay, their secondary is getting a little healthier. Nate Hobbs has been upgraded to questionable. He's missed a few weeks now. And then their rookie cornerback, Javon Bullard, who plays in the nickel, is also questionable. I think he'll play, but that's the first time he's been on the report, I believe, this season. In Houston, cornerback Kamari Lassiter, another rookie, is questionable. And then in Indianapolis, cornerback Sauce Gardner is out. Otherwise, they're fine. Otherwise, they're fully healthy. In Jacksonville, a few injuries to speak of, most notably on defense. Defensive end Trayvon Walker has been upgraded to questionable. He missed last week. However, defensive tackle Eric Armstead is questionable. Last week, he was active. So one player might be coming back. Another might be exiting the lineup. And then at free safety, Andrew Wingard is out. And then they are likely getting safety Eric Murray back off IR. He was upgraded to questionable this week. On the offensive line, left tackle Walter Little is out as well. In Kansas City, their offensive line is depleted this week, and maybe the Texans are going to eliminate them with the win. But I'm really worried about Mahomes taking sacks in this game. Left tackle Josh Simmons, their rookie first-round pick, was placed on IR, might be out for the year. And then right guard Trey Smith is doubtful. He's a great offensive lineman, along with right tackle Juwan Taylor. I can't say the same, but he's at least their starter. If they have someone worse than him getting the start this week, then that O-line going to be rough. So all across the board, the left, the right tackle are out, and then probably the best player they have, Trey Smith, is also not going to play. So that is a bummer. I might want to switch my pick, but I think odds are Mahomes can still overcome. On the defense, though, cornerback Chris Roland Wallace is on IR. In Las Vegas, defensive end Max Crosby is questionable. So is linebacker Jamal Adams, questionable as well. And then strong safety Jeremy Chin, questionable, along with left guard Dylan Parham and right guard Jordan Meredith. Both offensive linemen are questionable this week. In LA for the Chargers, defensive tackle Otito Ogbonio is coming off IR. He's been upgraded to questionable. I believe he's going to play. In LA for the Rams, on defense, nose tackle Poona Ford, who I believe missed last week, is questionable, and cornerback Darius Williams is doubtful. So at least Poona Ford, probably one of their really good players on the D-line, will be active. And there's some injuries opposite him. He should feast if active. But in Miami, guard Aaron Brewer is questionable this week. And then on defense, safety Ifeatu Melifonwu is questionable. So is safety Elijah Campbell as well. In Minnesota, left tackle Christian Darrisaw questionable yet again, along with left guard Donovan Jackson. He's questionable as well. So their O-line has been banged up for quite some time. I believe both players were also questionable last week. In their defense, nickel cornerback Theo Jackson is out for the second week in a row. For the Saints, offensive line, right guard Talisi Fuaga is out. And then on defense, strong safety Justin Reed is out as well. In Philadelphia, right tackle Lane Johnson is out. That's a huge piece. And then the Chargers catch a break. Their O-line sucks, but at least Jalen Carter is not going to exploit it. Jalen Carter, their defensive end, is out as well. So I feel more confident in taking the Chargers. That absolutely helps them quite a lot. But on defense as well, safety Marcus Epps might come back to the lineup. He's been activated off of IR. In Pittsburgh, defensive end Derek Harmon will miss his second game in a row, and strong safety Kyle Duggar will also miss this game. On the offensive line, tackle Calvin Anderson is out, and then in the secondary, cornerback Dante Kent was placed on IR. In Seattle, defensive tackle Riley Mills is out. Defensive tackle Jaron Reed was upgraded. He's coming off IR. He will play in this game. And then at safety, they're also getting Julian Love back. He's coming off IR as well. So the Seahawks defense in general is getting much healthier starting this week. In Tampa Bay, offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs is questionable, but if he plays, maybe he has a 2-game touchdown streak. It's always possible that could happen. But their cornerback Benjamin Morrison is questionable as well. And then their safety Rashawn Wisdom is out. He was placed on IR, but we have seen Hassan Reddick inactive for like a month now, and he is coming back to the field. He is active for this game with the Buccaneers. In Tennessee, their center Lloyd Cushenberry is out. On defense, cornerback Jalen Armour Davis is out as well. And then defensive tackle Shai Tuttle is out with a concussion. Last team to mention is Washington, where future Hall of Famer linebacker Bobby Wagner is questionable, and then defensive end Drake Jackson is out, along with left tackle George Fant. He is also going to miss. So those are all of the injury updates across the NFL, not just for fantasy purposes, but also the O-line and defense. But before I update my win-loss picks, I'm going to give you the weather updates. Now that it's Saturday, I can give you a pretty accurate forecast. Odds are Google knows what it's talking about going in to these games. And there are a lot of games that are indoors, so perhaps you just want to give those a tiebreaker this week if you have a decision to make. But for the most part, wind is not a factor. There is no game with wind higher than 12 miles per hour. So that's not a problem, but there are some matchups where it is snowing and it's going to rain. Most notably in Buffalo, it is a 31-degree forecast, a 35% chance of snow all throughout this game. So I would say the advantage goes to the Bills. They're definitely more accustomed to it, but since the Bengals year is on the line here, every game is do or die, I am still going to stick with my pick that the Bengals upset the Bills. In Cleveland, it's also going to be snowing, so this rookie quarterback's absolutely going to be tested this week. The forecast is 33 degrees in Cleveland with a 20% chance of snow all throughout the game. The wind will be 11 miles per hour. So I would expect more rush attempts. The Browns O-line is a problem. And then the Titans are actually playing better against the run right now. The Browns are actually susceptible to running backs who catch passes. I do think Tyjae Spears will have a good game in this weather. In East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Jets are hosting the Dolphins, and this game is maybe not as cold as the forecast said on Monday. It has risen up to 41 degrees. So that's not the end of the world, but still for the Dolphins, who just a couple weeks ago were playing in 80-degree weather, that is definitely not ideal for Tua. So at least there's no wind. It's only 5 miles per hour. There's unlikely to be any rain. There's a 10% chance of precipitation. It's a bit cloudy, but really it's just the cold temperature why I would downgrade Tua. So not going to write him off entirely, but still I'm a bit worried about it. And then in Tampa Bay, this is a very heavy, rainy game. It'll be 77 degrees, 50 to 60% chance of rain all throughout the matchup, but more so in the second half. It's probably going to peak in the second half, but the wind will be the heaviest of any game this week. 12 miles per hour, though, isn't enough for me to be worried. It's just the rain that might lead to a few extra rush attempts. A little relevant, but wind is more of a problem. In Jacksonville, it's going to be raining even heavier, though. 62 degrees in Jacksonville this week and 75% chance of rain all throughout the matchup. I would assume it's even wetter in Jacksonville. So that might help Jonathan Taylor, but the field might be slippery. Maybe some tackles are broken a little easier. In Baltimore, 42 degrees and cloudy, a 5% chance of rain. Pretty ideal weather. I wouldn't worry about anything in Baltimore. The wind is only 5 miles per hour in the Ravens and Steeler game. But in Green Bay, the temperature is officially going to be 17 degrees, according to Google. A 10% chance of rain. I wouldn't bet on it. And it will be cloudy, very limited wind, under 5 miles per hour. So not concerned about that, but maybe the frigid temperatures limit the offense a little bit. I have seen that happen in some Packers games, but I still kind of feel like Jordan Love is on a bit of a heater, and then the Bears can run the ball against anyone. So going to be a fun game. Weather a little cold, but otherwise should be fine. In Kansas City, it's also a bit cold, 26 degrees and cloudy on Sunday night with a 7 mile per hour wind projected. So that could also limit the offense just a touch, but I don't think I care. With no real wind concerns, it's just the Bills and Browns game with snow, and then the Bucks and Jags game with rain, and then maybe Tua not playing very well in the cold. So that's it for all the weather updates. And now we've reached the end of the video. There's only one thing I would like to change. I'm not going to update any of my picks against the spread. None of the lines have moved since Monday, and I'm sticking with what I got. I don't feel as confident to bet the spread on 3 of the upsets that I did predict. I'm not going to give you the Jets to cover, nor the Titans, nor the Chargers. Let's just watch those as football fans and avoid the coin flip matchups, in my opinion. Those upsets are a little bold. So against the spread, we're standing pat. However, straight up, I think I'm going to back out of my Bears pick. With no Rome Odunze, with Jaden Reed returning, the injury reports are trending up for the Packers and down for Chicago. So I was already a little worried about the Bears offense in this game. I could see Caleb Williams kind of play poorly. However, if they have to lean on the run that badly, I just don't trust their passing game to step up enough. And Jordan Love is kind of on a heater. Jordan Love is playing phenomenally well. If he gets Jaden Reed back, I'd feel pretty confident in multiple touchdown passes out of Jordan Love. And because of the temperature, I think this game is a bit low scoring. I'm going to switch my pick. I'm going to take the home team. I still think they're going to split the series, but it is starting to feel more likely that the home team gets the win both times rather than the road team calls upset in both matchups. So give me the Packers. This game is a true coin flip. I do think the edge goes to the home team, who are favored by about a touchdown. I don't understand this line. I think it should be more of a field goal. So I am going to stick with Chicago to cover. They're 6.5 point dogs, and I'll take the points. But to win straight up, let's take the Green Bay Packers. I think they will edge it out just barely. A close game. I think the Bears cover, but the Packers win straight up. So that's the only change I'm going to make. I thought about some other ones, but I don't think it's worth it. This is the only one where injuries are relevant enough where I'll change my opinion. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button. and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And I will be posting my quarterback rankings later tonight. So on the side here, you can see my running back and wide receiver rankings. And if this video says quarterback, then it's been posted already. But look for that later tonight. If you don't want to miss out, ring the notification bell, and I will see you tomorrow. It's week 14. Good luck, everyone. I hope you get the dub. I'll see you next time, and thank you for watching. Nice and blunt.